Good evening, everybody. Welcome. All right. This is incredible. We're like all grown up all of a sudden. Thank you for coming out this evening for what promises to be a fun and memorable night. But before we begin, we've got a little bit of, we want to take a moment and clear up some confusion with this short video. It's just 2 minutes.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to this, a video in which I will tell you the correct pronunciation of this word. But before that, what exactly are we talking about? This word describes a new style of presentation which has been gaining in popularity since 2003 when it was created by Klein and Mark Dytham. Basically, it's a fast-paced format in which a speaker has 20 slides, each set to automatically move forwards after 20 seconds, leading to a total of 6 minutes 40 seconds available for speakers to make a point. This style is supposedly an antidote to death by PowerPoint presentations, where presenters drone on with slides stuffed full of text. The 20-second limit makes that type of presentation impossible. Which brings me to the pronunciation. So why am I bothered about this word? Well, gentle viewer, the reason is that I've recently come across a few instances of people claiming to know the correct, totally authentic and native Japanese pronunciation of this word. Like this video, for example, which insists the pronunciation is PechaKucha, or this website which authoritatively tells us we should say PechaKucha. Neither of these bears any resemblance to the way that Japanese people pronounce this word. So just how is it pronounced? It's not PechaKucha, nor is it PechaKucha, and Pikachu is definitely not right. No, this word is pronounced, are you ready? PechaKucha.
Everybody together now. PechaKucha. There you have it. And because there really is no better authority on a Japanese word than a random English-speaking video we downloaded off the internet, I think we'll all agree with PechaKucha. So what is PechaKucha Night? Well, you got a little introduction there, but and why are we wearing T-shirts that seem to have a Bible verse on them? Well, they don't. PechaKucha Night is about building community. It's about building community through the sharing of ideas, sharing of stories, sharing of passions. We will have 4 events every year, and each event uses the same format. Each presenter that comes up gets 20 slides, and each slide is on the screen for exactly 20 seconds. Hence, 6 minutes 40. So PechaKucha Night, if you haven't been familiar, has been actually happening here in Burlington for 9 years. This is our 28th event, their 28th volume, as they call it in PechaKucha parlance. And we've had over 250 presentations shared to Burlington audiences. It was just pretty awesome. So why do we volunteer to put on these events? Well, we believe that in this time of such divisive rhetoric, that coming together to share ideas and passions in a forum that's welcoming is the kind of event that can lead to meaningful change and understanding. So that's why we do it. So now we'd like to take a moment and recognize our sponsor for this evening, Mascoma Bank. And I just want to say, before I invite Pete up, that Mascoma Bank is really the reason that we, is this still on? Yeah, okay. Mascoma Bank is really the reason we've been able to expand and really grow PechaKucha. You got to understand, I followed those pink puppets for 9 years. I believed in the puppets, so you guys are going to have to call me out if I say PechaKucha. But PechaKucha, okay, no, the fact that we're all grown up is thanks to Mascoma Bank. And so I'd like to invite up their Northern Vermont market leader and commercial lender, Pete Jones, for just a few words.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. We're really thrilled to be here, and we're thrilled to be the lead sponsor of tonight's event, and also for the remaining other the remaining 3 volumes, I guess, of PechaKuchas that remain over the course of the next few months. I'm excited to get to tonight's program. I know that you guys are as well. But if you allow me just a minute to tell you a little bit about, who the heck is Mascoma Bank and why did we decide to be the sponsor of this and the rest of the events. Mascoma Bank was formed a long time ago, 1899, down in Lebanon, New Hampshire. That's still where our headquarters are. We've been doing business in Burlington for many years. I've been in town for about 6 years, working out of an office down on Battery Street doing commercial loans. Mascoma Bank really takes pride in being a mutual bank. We have no shareholders. We don't have anybody that we need to report earnings to quarterly or increase and decrease staff and change course in order to hit quarterly profit goals. In fact, most of our net profit annually goes to community, what we call a community dividend, which equals about $1.5 million over the last few years. That's per year. Both through donations to support events like this and philanthropic support through a foundation that we have for that purpose. We're really psyched at the bank to say that over the past year we've been preparing to expand our retail branch network in Burlington, and I'm very happy to announce that on Monday we opened a branch down on Shelburne Road in the new Larkin building that's down by the movie theater down there. It's a fantastic spot. We're a B corporation, which another thing that sets us apart. We're both certified B, and we crushed the audit because that's who we are anyway. And we're also incorporated as a B in New Hampshire. So banking can be local, like agriculture, like any other business endeavor can be local. And we invite you to keep capital in the area and deal with a local financial institution. Might not be us, but there's a couple of options, and we're certainly we think we're the premier one. But in any event, thanks very much for coming out. If you're driving down Shelburne Road, stop into the office. All the other B Corps have worked with the bank to provide what we're calling B snacks. So, Ben & Jerry's and Rhino Foods, you can get a full-size Chester Chipwich. They're just sitting there in the freezer and available. You might have a word from our sponsors there, the women that staff the office. But we're really pleased to be here. And Chris, thanks for the opportunity.
All right, we just want to recognize a couple other partners. The Media Factory, which, just so you know, that's RETN and VCAM now, is known as the Media Factory. And they've been taping these PechaKucha Nights since their beginning 9 years ago. Solidarity of Unbridled Labor, they donated their expertise for our branding, our design, and promotion. So thank you, Solidarity. And longtime media sponsor, 7 Days, who has been with us since the very start. And honestly, what would we do without 7 Days? I also want to recognize our hardworking volunteer committee members who help steer this ship to port. You can spot them wearing these 640 T-shirts. If you have any questions, would like to help out, or would like to present at a future event, please don't hesitate to approach one of those volunteers. They'll tell you all about it, and they can get you even signed up. So tonight is a special event, a wonderful evolution of PechaKucha Night here in Burlington. We are excited to take this event to the next level here at our new home, Flynn Space. PechaKucha Night is an international phenomenon with events happening in over 1,000 cities around the world now. Tonight, there are also PechaKucha Nights happening in Amsterdam. They're having their 42nd PechaKucha Night. Prague is celebrating their 64th. Izmir, Turkey, their 21st. Aarhus, I think, if there are any Danish people here, I'm sorry. Denmark, their 40th. And Nashville, Tennessee, their 32nd. And there's even a special event happening tonight in London as well. So PechaKucha Night is where we take the artistic and social pulse of our community, and we take it through the lens of a very special group of people. They are your neighbors, they're your friends, they're your families, They're perhaps a new acquaintance you've yet to make. They are our presenters. We have an amazing lineup this evening of 10 presenters. Now, I just want to let you know that we initially had a different lineup, sort of, but unfortunately, two of our presenters got ill this week, and so we had to make some adjustments. So we still have 10 presenters. We did have initially 11. You're going to have to deal with me presenting tonight. I'm sorry. So the way that it works is we have 5 presentations, and then we have a brief intermission, which is a beer break, and then we follow that with the last 5 presentations. So you guys ready to get started? Our first presenter tonight is Michael Wisniewski, who is speaking about seriously seductive pavement photographs from his 4th floor balcony.
PechaKucha. I follow the pink people, too. Okay, we're ready. So 10,000 photos I took of my bedroom, merging landscape and the room. There were emotional and architectural reasons for such an excess. And I got to make spaces that I'd never made before and no client would ever let me. And so then I sold my house and I went on a fellowship to Italy. It was an eroded hill town, connected to its surroundings only by this thin, tenuous pedestrian bridge. And I was there for a month. And what did I do? I merged landscape and the town this time. And it was a wonderful thing. And then I came back to my brand new apartment on the 4th floor, overlooking Walgreens and the Shaw's parking lot. And I was like, what am I going to do? How can I merge? No matter how much I tried, I could not merge landscape and room with the rubber roof and all the parking lot stuff. So I lost my mojo, I lost my modus operandi, and I had to come up with some new way of seeing and making. So I looked down from my balcony one winter night, and suddenly it looked very interesting in this alleyway. And there was the curve of the snow, of the tires in the snow, and the plow and the salt. And I began to think, well, maybe there's something here. And eventually I began to find these incredibly beautiful patterns that were very rich, tire paintings, salt drawings, and freeze-thaw cycles. And at first I was totally enraptured just by the patterns. And over time, as I began to see more, I actually saw more and different things. So you want to go to Daedalus for a drink and dinner? No, I have to go home and see what presents my pavement has left me for tonight. I'm kind of not a one photograph type of person. I always work in series. Series is something that's sweet. So I was like caught up in this series and it was getting serious. So I'm not a morning person, but every morning at dawn, I'd leap out of bed, I'd lean out my Romeo and Juliet balcony, and I'd point my lens, which is risky business since I don't wear pajamas. But I figured the Walgreens delivery guy is not going to be casting his eyes up to the sky. Over time, things changed. The patterns seemed to disappear, and I don't know if it was me or the change in the weather, but suddenly I was seeing figures instead of patterns. And being an architect, figure ground is like the Holy Grail. It's just a wonderful, fabulous thing to see. And so I was finding these figures in the snow. And when the southern sun was low, I would see light reflecting off the windows, and at night, the lights coming through the trash enclosure were quite interesting. And I don't know why I named this series Pavement, because pavement is essentially inert. It doesn't really have any character unless it's interacting with something. So when the muse hits, the muse changes you. And it also changes the way you use your tools. I'm generally a wide-angle type of person. I shoot big spaces. And I found myself, of course, I'm on the 4th floor balcony, using a telephoto and a zoom lens to find these shapes and these colors. Very abstract. Now, the pavement itself is inert, but the snow blanket isn't. And there's this kind of dance that happens in dialogue between the weather, and there's this decisive moment that happens in time when suddenly the design is revealed. So I was not going out anymore. I was literally just sitting waiting for the decisive moment to happen. And so then I was looking at figures, but suddenly the figures, they began to change too. They became characters telling stories. So the bottom right one, I'm like thinking that's Plato or Buddha or a saint meeting with students. And the upper right one, it's Moses about to cast down the 10 Commandments and break them. And I'll let you decide the one on the left. And then one night, these alien beings appeared, which to me, I felt they were benign, that they were like the aliens that came in the film Arrival, and that they were here to communicate with me. But they could have been from the Game of Thrones, and they could have been hell-bent on destruction. So I began to think that the stories that are being told, they might only happen if those stories are already inside you. So for me, like, when I look at this image, I see all the different paintings of the flight from Egypt. But you may see a different story, or you may not see anything at all except squiggly things on the pavement. I've been obsessed with 1,300 years of paintings of the Annunciation and the patterns in it. And most people don't realize that Santana's second album, Abraxas, was an Annunciation. Made, I think, in 1989 or something like that. Or no, actually, the painting went back. But this actually was my first Annunciation that I was able to pull off. So my pavement paintings, I don't know why, but they connect me with all of the places and the paintings and images that I love, including the top right from Giotto, which is eroding. And that painting is eroding, and my pavement paintings eroded much quicker on a very quick basis. So I don't quite know why my insignificant alleyway is sponsoring these kind of images that attract me so much. But it really felt to me in a very moving way that I was connecting with my past, that I was making things related to the past, but hopefully they stand on their own and that they're really mine. So the pavement ended when the weather severed the connection between the asphalt and the snow. But those emotional and architectural reasons for creating were still there, and these supplicants still seem to want something. But I'm essentially kind of inert. I need interaction in order for an art to have. So I looked down at my sheets one morning, and I'm thrashing in my sleep so much that I'm unconsciously carving these bas-relief sculptures into my sheets. And so I think that's major grade interaction. So at this point, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm pretty much done. In fact, I stopped thrashing around, so even these aren't happening. And but the nice thing is that even if the Walgreens guy casts his eyes upward, he can't see me naked now making these photos. And it's come full circle. I started out in my bedroom, and I'm finishing in my bedroom. And now that I'm not thrashing around, I'm not sure what will be my next series or project. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I should make a note that Michael actually participated in our very first event that we had 9 years ago and has participated on occasion since then, which you probably couldn't tell from that awesome presentation. Thank you, Michael. Our next presenter is Hannah Satterlee, Hannah Satterlee, A Quest and Discovery of Dancing in This Lifetime. Hannah?
I think I'm going to go like that. Okay. Passion is a feeling. It's a surge and a rise, an energetic explosion, a feeling of yes. Passion to me is dance. I pretty much decided I was going to let dance lead my life. The first time I went to a dance recital, age 10, felt my heart just leap up onto the stage. And I whispered to my mom, I want to do that. And it's been on ever since. Looking back at my childhood and upbringing, I'm extremely lucky at the support of my brother, my family, and the studio where I learned how to dance. Not only did they celebrate me as an individual becoming an artist, but we supported each other. And we celebrated the JOD, the joy of dance. So I took this on the road for the better part of 10 years, traveling the world through the eyes of a dancer and a choreographer, becoming a dance anthropologist, learning about cultures that use dance as a language, because it is, celebrating, mourning, and moving together. It was like learning something I always thought was possible, but had not yet felt here in Vermont. So at the end of 10 years, pretty exhausted, I needed to stop and find home and set down my roots. And like that magnetic pull of a cat that knows its home, it was Vermont. I grew up in East Montpelier. And it just came every time I would meditate, traveling, I was in Vermont in my mind. So I came back. And because I am who I am, I needed a project. So I declared that I would commit myself to enriching and connecting the dance culture in Vermont. Well, what do you do with an idea? Let it ruminate, see what bubbles up, clarify, and begin. With the help of many incredible people, I formed a nonprofit called the Vermont Dance Alliance. And I would draw it, discovering that it was this garden or this spider web connecting artists and studios and theaters, lighting designers, costume, makeup designers, patrons, sponsors, partners. I've always drawn choreography, so this is how I imagined it. And our mission has been bringing dance to life. I wanted to take all this experience and knowledge that I gained from traveling and see if it could happen here. And it has. And I felt this shift of passion from wanting to move and be in the studio to manifesting this idea and spending all my time and energy taking it to fruition and connecting us and not dancing. And the response has been incredible because people need connection and bodies need to move. So we're about 3 years later now, and I'm standing back in my dancing legs and feeling this urge to create again as a choreographer and performer, and sort of wondering what that means now. Showing up to the studio alone is not really that satisfying. And dancing on the stage isn't really that important to me anymore. And I'm not disregarding the struggle of being an artist, financially, energetically, all of it. I'm considering that, which is why I'm asking, why dance? But for me, dance has always been about reminding us that we are alive, that we're all in bodies. And I always seek that my audiences or students have the experience of sensation. So maybe it's you're not comfortable in your chair, or your heart is beating faster as we move faster, or recognizing you also hold heartbreak in your shoulders. And I think probably all of us can agree that our spirit needs nature and that our art needs our spirit. And Vermont gives us such bounty. There are open fields, amazing forests. Combining my passion of dance with the beauty of Vermont is the closest I have come to magic. Because you see a space and silently interview it and say, how could dance fit here? Pour your heart into it, rehearsing, writing, drawing, give it to the audience, and it's gone. It disappears. And all you're left with is a feeling. And many Vermont artists are taking bold choices, using our landscape with dance. This is a project called the Quarry Project. We're dancing on floating stages over 400 feet of water. So I'm curious now if we can define what is Vermont dance. Dance can bring us together. Dance can help us to communicate. And dance helps us to feel alive. So dance can give us all that passionate feeling of yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Our next presenter is Bryan Perkins, who will be telling the story of the Old North End through music. Bryan?
Hello. All set? All right, so we're going to sing a song together. Please repeat after me. Ooh-ah-dee-ah, ooh-ah-da. Ooh-ah-dee-ah, ooh-ah-da. I dig-a-dee. I dig-a-doo-ah. I dig-a-dee, 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 dig-a-doo-ah. All right, well done, well done. Well, thanks for singing a song from my past, which I brought to the Old North End. I sing it with my second graders, and they would be very proud of you. About 30 years ago, my family moved to the Pink House on Decatur Street in the Old North End. The Old North End is that steaming kitchen where clever people cook up treats to share with the rest of Burlington, such as the Community Health Center, Champlain Housing Trust, and the Onion River Food Co-op. So, trying to do our part, we started an anarchist cafe on the corner of North Winooski and North Street. And it's there that I learned to play traditional New England contra dance music. So after a while, I joined a band, Atlantic Crossing, and after 12 years of touring internationally and nationally with that band, and we recorded 6 albums and did our very best to play the traditional music of Vermont. But I felt a need to have more of an impact on an immediate level in my own community, on a street level, and so I helped to form the Brass Ballaghan, a loud and proud street band. And so after a while with that band, I moved on to working in other areas. But all the while, I was working with traditional New England music. Now, traditional Yankee music, we all love it, but it's often too narrowly defined and whitewashed. Our community, living in the Old North End and researching its history, I've come to realize, and we have daily reminders of how incredibly diverse and rich the Old North End has always been. For example, a huge number of French Canadians lived in the Old North End, And they were joined by tremendous numbers of virtually every other ethnic group. And all of these people brought their music and their dance. So we really should understand the incredible diversity. And on Decatur Street, we are particularly aware of the historical Lithuanian Jewish community, which established itself in our neighborhood between the years of 1880 and 1920. So here's a picture about to come up of a procession of that community celebrating the opening of the Hebrew Free School, which was served as somewhat of a music hall and a gathering space for the community. And on that very same street, we have 100 years later another ceremonial procession by a folkloric group and some newcomers to the community dressed in their ceremonial attire. So everyone who comes to the Old North End tries to express their culture and tries to pass that culture on to the young people. And I realize the importance of working with young people. 100 years ago, in our neighborhood, Ben Zion Black was a tireless promoter of Yiddish culture. He put on events celebrating and preserving the music and literature of his community. And realizing that any self-respecting Jewish community had to have the presence of a mandolin orchestra, he organized Burlington's first mandolin orchestra. And he did this by shamelessly arm-twisting any young person who is capable of actually holding a mandolin. So, flash forward 100 years, and from Burlington's Tibetan community, Migmar Terzing will likewise inform you that it is essential that young people participate in the community's, the Tibetan community's Dramyan orchestra. So, and this form is repeated within the Nepali, the Burundian, the Vietnamese, the Bosnian community. All the various communities try to express their culture and try to pass it on to the young people. My job in all this has basically to make these kids as loud as possible. Okay, so kids need to jam. Kids need to play music with other young people, and they need to do it in the neighborhood in which they live. And so 3 years ago, we established the Old North End Neighborhood Band, which is through a lot of research and a lot of networking, we established a teen ensemble playing a repertoire drawn from the traditions which have been brought to the Old North End by the various communities over the last 200 years. And so this obviously is quite a complex undertaking. So to keep everything straight, we published a book entitled The Music of the Old North End. And that book, we're about to see a page from that book, which depicts a Swahili song, which we learned from our neighbors Deluxe Malega and Janvier Mbelizi. And the fun thing about working with music drawn from the neighborhood is that very young kids who know the music, who know the language, can actually participate at a higher level of ability than some of our older teens. So it's a great leveling factor. 1909, in the South End, the French-speaking Lakeside District, here are some child laborers. One of these kids, Lucien Girard, became a fiddler. We play one of his tunes. And likewise, Anwar Diab Aga, a violin player from Syria, is now a resident in Winooski. We play one of his tunes. And we think it's very important to realize in this time of intolerance that Burlington, for over 100 years, has been the home of a substantial Syrian population. And we think we're all the better for it. So, the Old North, that'll cut into my time. But please, I appreciate the sentiment. So, the Old North End Neighborhood Band, dozens of kids have made their way through this ensemble. We've played over 40 shows. Our next show is at Jazz Fest. Our most recent show was a very important show up at the Ohavi Zedek Synagogue. And the next picture, this picture, you see the band leader calmly walking away from the stage, fully confident that the young people of the community can carry on playing the traditional music of their neighborhood. Thank you very much.
realized something on the programs. There's a little space there, and you'll notice it says, "What inspired you tonight?" And I'm afraid after just only 3 presentations, we didn't leave enough space. It was just tremendous. Thank you. Thank you, Bryan. Our next presenter is Tricia Shrum, Fueling the Climate Change Fight with Love. Tricia?
Climate change often seems so distant. We know it's a problem, but it doesn't seem connected to our day-to-day priorities. As a result, we seem to be suffering from a problem of global procrastination. So we try to make climate change feel relevant by basically scaring the shit out of people. With the coming extinction of 1 million species, among other very bad news, this is not hard to do. But if we focus only on the scary, immense, and sometimes apocalyptic impacts, it can backfire. And we can feel hopeless, we feel despair, and sometimes we'll have even less will to take action. Or, as many do, we turn to denial or ignorance to cope. So the question I've been exploring is this: how do we get these brains of ours to grasp the urgency of climate change in a way that drives strong, immediate, and sustained action? And if that weren't hard enough, how do we depoliticize this issue in this hyper-partisan time that we live in? First, as I was completing my studies, I found environmental economics as the answer. I thought as an undergrad that if you just give people information and, get the incentives right, then all of our problems will be solved. But so far, for lots of reasons, that hasn't worked either. So I went and got my PhD in behavioral economics. Thanks. It was hard. And I learned a lot. And I'll tell you, I'll save you 7 years of your life. Humans are complicated. It's true. Information is never neutral. Framing, values, and identity matter. Emotions and instincts shouldn't be dismissed. They play a critical role in decision-making. And we are terrible at decisions with long time horizons and uncertainty. 4 years ago, I gave a talk on this subject. At the same conference, another speaker, much more famous than me, told the audience that she has this dream where the kids of the future look at her and say, "You knew about climate change. What did you do?" On the flight home, this question echoed in my mind. I wanted my daughter, who was just 10 months old at the time, to know what I did and how I felt and what I had not yet done. So I opened my laptop and wrote her a letter for her to read when she was my age. When I wrote that letter, I realized that to her, I am not small, I am not powerless. To my daughter, I am the most powerful person in the world, and it is my job to protect her. While I wrote it, it hit me. This could be the answer. Looking back from the future could help solve the problem of global procrastination. Parental love is a universal value with a uniquely empowering frame. And this love for our kids transcends all political and cultural boundaries. So after that trip, I met Jill Cubitt, and together we created Dear Tomorrow. We've already reached millions of people, and just last month, we stood at the United Nations headquarters and launched a global parents coalition called Our Kids Climate. So the Dear Tomorrow approach is simple. We ask parents and grandparents and anyone rooted in love for the next generation to write a message and make a promise to the future. And we preserve that message in a historical archive for future generations to read. Then we ask that people share their message through social media and other forms of community art. You see, each writer is a trusted messenger for their own networks. And each message shares a unique, authentic, and powerful perspective on climate action. And something magical happens. When people address these letters to their own children, they move from seeing a gloomy apocalyptic future to a hopeful vision of what is possible. Behavioral science tells us that this kind of hope is crucial for inspiring action instead of paralysis. Opening up a conversation across time crystallizes the relationship between the choices that we make today and the lives that our children will lead when they are grown. After people write or read Dear Tomorrow messages, we help them find meaningful climate action through our partner organizations who are already doing amazing things all around the world. So that way, people can turn this newfound empowerment into a pathway of sustained climate action. So, my dear audience, I invite you to go home, tuck your kids in bed, or snuggle up to your dog, pull out your sweet vintage typewriter, and write a Dear Tomorrow message. Make a promise to just do more. Then you can submit it at deartomorrow.org, and importantly, share that message with your friends and family and start the conversation about climate change from a place of love. You will be amazed at how powerful you feel and how many lives you can touch with your message. So tonight, what I want you to remember is this. We are addressing climate change from a place of love. Not fear, not anger, not partisanship, love. And the love a person has for their own child is the most powerful force on this planet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tricia. I just realized that I'm going to be introducing myself, which seems like a very Napoleon thing to do, doesn't it? I'm sorry. We did have some of our presenters had to bow out, so I thought I'd throw something together this morning and share that with you. So I apologize in advance. Recently, there have been a number of TV shows and movies in popular culture that have as one of their central themes the idea of bravery and taking great risks for reward or achievement, such as Game of Thrones, Star Wars, The Avengers. In addition to these fictional and fantastical tales, there have also been a series of new documentaries about extreme climbing that had me pondering the idea of bravery. Where does it come from? How do we wield it? And from where have my notions of bravery been born? I had some familiarity with what drives a climber, having spent a long summer in Alaska after college to pursue some of my own climbing dreams. But despite the proclamations of a proud, small, local newspaper, I never really considered myself particularly brave. Driven, perhaps, but very far from fearless. I think about the people I came from and the nature of their bravery in their lives. Take, for example, my grandfather, Lucien Coulis, who lived in Brussels. Lucien was a restless young man, and when he was not yet 20, he jumped on a steamship and worked as a merchant marine to see the world, traveling across the ocean to visit New York in the roaring 20s. Lucien remained adventurous throughout his life, traveling across the European continent on his motorcycle. When he married, he added a sidecar. During the Second World War, Lucien worked as an accountant for occupied Belgium, keeping 2 sets of books to hide money from the Nazis. He was awarded with a medal after the war for his bravery that would have cost him his life had it been found out. My father, too, was an adventurous sort. While in the Air Force, stationed overseas in Germany near the Belgian border, he became passionate about skydiving during the infancy of that sport and set many briefly held records for a variety of maneuvers at altitude. In fact, my parents met when my dad's main parachute canopy failed to open, and he had to rely on his less maneuverable reserve chute, and that sent him spiraling into the dense Ardennes forest. Among the local rescue party who would locate him dangling from a tree was a lovely young Belgian named Francine, daughter of Lucien, who would become my mom. I was born during the Great Space Race, and many of my ideas and notions of bravery center around these men who would sit atop highly explosive tubes of metal and get launched into the unknown. A year after I was born, Neil Armstrong would walk on the moon, and I, like most other young boys like me, was captivated with all things space. I remained a space nut growing up when I encountered this astounding image in a book. I was completely mesmerized. My palms sweated just looking at this photo. This is American test pilot Joe Kittinger, who in 1960 set the record for the world's highest skydive jump at nearly 103,000 feet above the Earth. The high-altitude parachute program was called Project Excelsior and involved Kittinger flying into the stratosphere suspended from a less than paper-thin helium balloon in a gondola no larger than a telephone booth. Because he was exposed to elements, his jumpsuit was a large and ungainly pressurized affair that more than doubled his weight. An hour and 30 minutes after the balloon launched, Kittinger reached the stratosphere and stepped out of his little telephone booth and into the void. A plaque attached to the gondola of Excelsior read, "This is the highest step in the world." During his descent, he nearly reached the speed of sound. That same year, 1960, another pair of brave men went in the other direction, descending beneath the Pacific Ocean for over 7 miles. This is Swiss oceanographer Jacques Piccard, who along with American Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh squeezed themselves into a tiny round sphere attached to the bottom of a submarine, and for 5 hours went down, 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 deeper than any other men by a long shot, into the deepest spot known to man, an area called the Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench. Deeper than Mount Everest is high, the pressure on their small submarine at the bottom of the ocean exceeded 17,000 pounds per square inch. They lingered at the deepest spot on Earth for some 20 minutes, and then, get this, upon discovering small cracks in the window, the brave pair began the 4-hour journey back to the safety of the surface. Now, Jacques Piccard was the son of this man on the right, Auguste Piccard, who developed the spherical gondola that allowed for both high-altitude balloon flights and deep-sea diving. Get a load of these crash helmets, by the way. They're wicker baskets. It's just great. Yeah, geniuses, right? Piccard was a brave adventurer in his own right, setting many high-altitude balloon ascent records in the 1930s. He is the inspiration for the genius inventor Professor Calculus in the Belgian Tintin comics, as well as certain other brave Piccard featured on television. Actually, the entire Piccard family is of note in the bravery department. Auguste Piccard's brother, Jean-Félix, was also a record-setting balloonist, whose American wife, Jeanette, held the women's high-altitude record for nearly 3 decades. Auguste's grandson, Bertrand, was one of 2 men who piloted the first balloon nonstop around the world in 1999. The depth record set by Jacques Piccard and the high-altitude record set by Kittinger would both stand for over 50 years until the year 2012, when both records would be bested or met, Movie director James Cameron would descend to the Challenger Deep, and Austrian Felix Baumgartner would jump from 128,000 feet and exceed the speed of sound on his way down. And what about Joseph Kittender? Well, he celebrates his 91st birthday this summer. Here he is with Felix Baumgartner. Kittender served as an advisor and was in fact the man on the other side of the radio during Baumgartner's record-breaking jump. Now, what has this young astronaut learned about bravery after all these years? At least I didn't have to dress up as a Dutch boy. I've learned that it's personal and unique to each of us. It's about belief, it's about dreams, and maybe just a touch of daring. Thank you. Okay, so we'll have a brief 15-minute intermission. Please hit the bar if you'd like, and then we'll start up with our second round. Thank you so much. All right, is everybody ready for round two? Yeah. All right, I'm just gonna, a couple house announcements. We do have some swag. It's all free, available. We want to definitely get the word out about how special PechaKucha Night is and how special it is to present here. So feel free to take stickers. They're great for your water bottles. We've got some pins. And then please, if you enjoyed tonight and you would like to know more about the events that are coming up, sign up for our email list. It's back there on the table so we can keep you informed. All right. You guys having fun? Yeah. What a great night. This is so great. All right, our next presenter is Emily Stone King. She's going to be kicking off the second half of our night here. And she's going to be speaking on making people feel warm and fuzzy about anatomical illustration.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you guys tonight about anatomical illustration. Don't be nervous, it's not going to get gross on my slides. Hopefully it'll be cute and you'll like it. I do anatomical illustration out of an odd technique. I do it out of knitting. And I think the reason why, well, so I should go back. I started knitting about 20 years ago, and I taught myself to knit in order to quit smoking. And it worked. I locked myself in my house over a 3-day weekend with this book that I got at a thrift store. Sticks, string, Twizzlers, no cigarettes. And the thing that happens when you teach yourself to knit in order to quit smoking is that you suddenly knit all the time. You never stop knitting. And your family eventually says, okay, please stop. We don't need any more hats. We're dripping in knitting. We don't need scarves. No more socks. Please stop. And so I had to think of a way I could keep knitting and not like fill my house up with knitting and maybe make some money to get more yarn to keep knitting. So I started making these little creatures, little stuffed animals like this rabbit. I was doing a monkey and teddy bears and like cute little things. And I started doing frogs, and I really liked them because I found these big plastic eyes that were like the perfect thing for frogs. And one day, my husband was like, wouldn't it be really funny if you did one that had like a third leg? I think they were in the news, like those mutant frogs that had that weird third leg. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Well, what if? And then we started brainstorming and like, what are weird things we could do? And then we came up with the idea of like, what if we did an anatomically dissected frog? And my brain was like, anatomical frog, boom. I knew exactly what it was I wanted to do. I knew how it was going to look. Technique it was all there. And so I got working right away and I made one. And I think the reason that it was such a like lightning bolt is because I have always loved anatomical art and medieval history in particular. This is the grossest it gets, I promise. I love medieval history. I love scientific history, medical history, infectious disease. I love all that kind of gory, yucky stuff. And so the idea of marrying the thing that I love doing and the thing that I love studying, boom, it was super great. I love early modern anatomical illustration. I think that the marriage of science and art is like, it's something that goes back such a long way, and I'm just fascinated by it. But I can't draw, and I can't, I can't draw, I can't paint. But what I can do is I can knit. So I made the frog, and the next thing I ended up making was this little lab rat. I've made a couple of other things. I've done a fetal pig, a bat, an earthworm, which is the first thing I ever had to dissect in junior high. I've done some stuff that's maybe not real. So I did this very accurate alien. Tell me I'm wrong. I did an Easter bunny. His little guts were plastic, the plastic grass that you put in your basket, and then he had just eggs, little Easter eggs for his organs. I often do commissions. So this is an 18-inch walleye that was commissioned by Parks Canada, and they were doing a summer program with 8-year-olds, and they wanted to teach them how to clean their fish. So I hand knitted this, and then I hand dyed the stripes on so that it would be really accurate, and gave it the lateral the lateral line, and then it has this little pocket. So it's a little zipper pocket, and the kids can unzip it and then pull the guts out. And they have little, they're snapped in so that they have to kind of get in there and kind of get them out. So that was really fun. Recently, I've been doing a lot more human art, getting back toward the more anatomical illustration rather than like little sculptures. And what I've been doing is basically just knitting a flat square or rectangle, and then I'll take unspun wool roving or yarn and kind of needle felt a design onto the knitted piece of fabric, and then glue it into a frame. So it's a little bit more illustrative. It's almost like drawing with wool. The brain there is actually a big long knitted cord that I then kind of squiggled up and sewed in place. And so to this day, my mom, who loves me and is very proud of me, still does say, who buys these things? Like, who on earth would want this in their house? Weirdos like me. This is a 3D sculpture that was another commission, and it's a guy who, I don't think he's a doctor or anything. I think he just wanted a head in his house. But it's life size. The ear, nose, and throat doctors, that's the outer ear, and then the inner ear, kind of all the bones and stuff in there. So I do a lot of, I don't really know who everybody is that buys, because not many people tell me, but a lot of people are like, when I do get a note, are like, my son's graduating from veterinary school, or my uncle is an endocrinologist. And so I also get things like this, which is an actual dog that someone sent me a photograph of their poodle. And he said, well, I would love it if you do a bisected poodle, my poodle, for my wife as an anniversary present. I said, oh my gosh, I absolutely am going to do that. Thank you. So the other thing I do is I also do stained glass. So I'm kind of always doing different things. And I've been doing glass for 20 years. And it wasn't until late last year that I realized, hey, wait a minute, medieval art, medieval craft, anatomical art, anatomical medieval. Why have I not married these things together yet? So it was, I don't know why it took me this long, but late last year I made this. It's a 12 by 18 panel anatomical heart. It's the one from Grey's Anatomy, if anyone's ever actually browsed through that like I did when I was a little girl, which maybe is kind of what happened to get me here. The glass is hand blown, it's gorgeous, and then I took glass paint and painted the design, the veins and stuff on. And then this was a commission. A guy bought the heart, and then he was like, could you do a brain as well? I have friends who are doctors. One's a heart surgeon and one's going to be a neurosurgeon, getting married. So got two going together. So this was a commission That was super fun, and that's kind of where I'm headed. So, thank you.
So I bet when we said warm and fuzzy about anatomical illustration, you didn't think we were going there, did you? Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks, Emily. Our next presenter is Louis Calderon, speaking on the role and responsibility of art, culture, and speaking truth to power. Louis?
Hello, everybody. Okay, good to go. Hello, I'm Louis Calderon, a Burlingtonian, Edmonds Middle School and Burlington High School alum. I'm a dad, a citizen, a creative, a semi-retired DJ, and in 2016, I served as a director of arts, culture, and the youth vote for the Bernie Sanders 2016 campaign. That was an experience that set me on a path finding ways to impact change through culture. Here we have one of Pablo Picasso's most famous works. The piece is his most powerful political statement. Guernica gained monumental status, becoming a perpetual reminder of the tragedies of war, of anti-war symbol, and an embodiment of peace. I have never in my life quoted Abe Lincoln, so here goes. Abraham Lincoln famously said, "Public sentiment is everything. With public sentiment, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed." This piece here is by artist Ron English for the Obama '08 campaign, and it was one of my favorite pieces that helped me really fully realize how historic that opportunity was going to be. This image here is about the Voting Rights Act of 1965, signed into law by President Lyndon Johnson, aimed to overcome legal barriers at the state and local levels that prevented African Americans from exercising their right to vote. Our vote is our power. That's the only actual power we have. And Uncle Scott, Gil Scott Heron, who some of you might know, said, the revolution will not be televised. The revolution will not be right back after a message about a white tornado, white lightning, or white people. The revolution will not go better with Coke. The revolution will not fight germs that cause bad breath. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no reruns, brothers. The revolution will be live. And Public Enemy said, fight the power. We got to fight the powers that be. Elvis was a hero to most, but he never meant shit to me. You see, that sucker was straight up racist and simple and plain. Mother F him and John Wayne, because I'm black and I'm proud and I'm ready and I'm hyped. Plus, I'm amped, and most of my heroes don't appear on no stamps. Silence is death. This poster was created in 1987 by a group of 6 gay men in New York City to draw attention to the AIDS crisis. Harken back to the pink triangle use in Nazi concentration camps to identify gay prisoners. This is a symbol that was reclaimed by the LGBT community beginning in the 70s as a symbol of pride. Artist, activist, and feminist Barbara Kruger, her piece, Your Body is a Battleground, has just as much resonance today as it did a quarter century ago. Kruger made this iconic image for the Women's March on Washington in 1989 after a string of anti-abortion laws began to undermine Roe v. Wade. We start to see how the pendulum swings in this country. Once the role of the artists and their mediums to show us how we feel, memes, phones, and social media now play that role. With very little questioning, we just adopt them. The power of this medium really needs to be focused on. What took years now happens in seconds. This is one that just popped this week. This is a piece by my friend Nathan Bell called Make America Relate Again. His quote was for the piece that we worked on. America is standing out for all the wrong reasons: violence, racial and gender injustices, political and corporate corruption, debt-inducing education, and unprogressive healthcare systems. With a slight word change and color swap, things change. This is a piece that we did for the Bernie Sanders campaign. My friend Shepard Fairey, who famously did the Obama Hope poster, did this poster with the band Red Hot Chili Peppers in a concert that we did in LA for that campaign. All of the money from that concert and the sales of this poster itself funded the rest of the art and culture program on that campaign. This piece is called Identity Crisis by my friend Michael Murphy. Perception is reality. This is one of my favorite pieces from an Italian artist named Armando Milani. This piece was for the United Nations back in 2003. The dove here is carrying a message of universal peace by gently transforming the world war into peace. World peace is attainable. This piece here by French artist JR, he built this installation on the US-Mexican border a couple years ago. The large photographic piece depicts a child peering over a border fence from the Mexican side in reference to Trump's efforts to rescind the DACA program, which protects the children of undocumented immigrants from being deported. This image here sparked an international conversation and is an example of art becoming the catalyst for hard conversations. This piece here, I don't believe in global warming. An opportunity for street art to spark conversation and to inspire people to take action, or at least remind them about the important issues that we may have forgotten. This photo here you may have seen is called Detained. The protester Aisha Evans being detained in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. This image in its entirety is a symbol of civil unrest of the black community that has spread across the nation. It is a construct of the visual tensions between excess and restraint, male and female, black and white, protection and vulnerability. And I'm with Cap. This is speaking truth to power right here, using his platform to bring awareness to the issues, like Muhammad Ali before him. He will go in the books as one of this generation's greatest voices in the ongoing conversation around civil rights. This is America. Donald Glover, brilliant piece about guns and violence in America and the fact that we deal with them and consume them as part of entertainment on the one hand, and on the other hand is part of our national conversation, is an incredible piece. And so this video is so rich in metaphors. It captures much of what America is experiencing today. This piece here is my friend Rosario Dawson. She posed for a reimagining of Norman Rockwell's freedom of speech. The work was created late last year by the artists Hank Willis Thomas and Emily Scher. Mr. Thomas is one of a number of artists who have reimagined four freedoms, most of them spurred by racial and political tensions that have divided the country. This piece reflects an America I see myself in. And this is my son, Ravon. Last year, my son and his friends petitioned to have Black Lives Matter flag raised at Burlington High School. A petition of more than 450 signatures ended up getting that flag raised. They received national recognition. I was in Los Angeles and met the president of Black Lives Matter, and she saw this image. Just this week, students from Edmonds Middle School took to the streets. So maybe this whole thing is about one generation impacting the next one. Thank you.
Wow, just wow. That's awesome. It just reminds me that these presentations are available, will be available on the Media Factory website. They'll be available in the PechaKucha.org website. And these are important presentations for other people to hear who couldn't make it here tonight. So please let people know that that's available to them. Our next presenter is Ryan Miller. And when we asked Ryan what to put on the poster for his talk, he said, just ask. So we're just going to leave it at that. Ryan.
Okay, don't start just yet. Is Michael here, by the way? Jagger? Hey, this whole thing was all curated by Michael Jagger, so I just wanted to throw that out, that this is a really eclectic and inspired group of people, and it's an honor to be here. So everybody say thank you to Michael for kind of reinventing this stuff. It's totally on brand for you to like sneak around and be quiet, but I appreciate you and being here and being asked to do it. Oh boy, I didn't try any of this before, so let's just go for it. All right, let's say go. Okay. moderately self-aggrandizing PechaKucha of 17 times I scared myself, made something, and or said yes, plus 1 bonus photo of a chicken in sunglasses. What I think I figured out by watching all of these other things is this is kind of a story of a journey of an artist, and a lot of this happened since I moved to Vermont 9 years ago, so it's sort of pertinent to what's happening here. And I don't know what 20 seconds feels like, so apparently it's a little... Here, okay, it all starts, I'm in a band called Guster, and we're still a band. We play... I was a founding member. We've been in a band for 27 years. We sold over 1 million records. We have a gold record for a single, and we just put out our 8th record in January, and we play all the time. And it's basically the wellspring from which all this other stuff that I'm about to talk about comes from. I think the first half of my life, I was a musician, but then I came into other things. Okay, the first thing I did was, that was weird, was I wanted to score movies, and I went to a music supervising people. I said, hey, I want to score movies. They're like, do commercials. So I wrote a song for Target called Tiny Tree Christmas, and they liked it, and I got paid a lot of money. I was like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna be a composer, and I'm gonna learn how to do a lot of stuff. So then I met a guy in Vermont named Colin Trevorrow, and he made this movie, Safety Not Guaranteed, and it did really well at Sundance. In fact, the next movie after this was Jurassic World, and then he was hired to make Star Wars Episode 9, but he got fired. But in between, this is going to come out later. But I scored this movie, and now I've scored 11 movies, and it's really fun being a film composer, because it's like really fun, and I can do it from my house, I can do it from Vermont. Boy, 20 seconds is going not so fast on this one. Okay, this is really good. So then, last summer, we played at the Shelburne Museum and with the Vermont Symphony Orchestra. It was super fun. And there was a big care package from Butterfly Bakery who makes Hetty Topper hot sauce. And I love them, and I called them, and I was like, Claire, this is amazing. She's like, come over. Have you ever made custard? I said, no. So she's like, let's make custard. I didn't make it, but it's so good. And I said, hot pickle. Okay. This is a television show I did with Vermont PBS called Making Friends with Ryan Miller, because this woman came up to me and she was like, hey, do you want to do a TV show? And I said, yeah, let's make it about all the weird people in Vermont I don't know about. So that's Paul Budnitz, who bailed on tonight, but he's one of my best friends. But I did 13 episodes, and it was so fun. And I was like, oh, I'm really good at hosting things, so I'm going to host more television shows. So I did another one with Vermont PBS. I'm going to come over here, called Bardo, which I didn't name because I came in late. But it's it's like Austin City Limits meets Comedians in Cars Making Coffee. We made 8 episodes. I don't know if we're going to make any more. They're very expensive, but I really like doing it. That's also on Vermont PBS, and that's Tune Yards, and she's the best, and we became friends after that. And then this 20 seconds is not going so good, but I'm going to come over here. Okay. So then, the best place, one of the greatest places in Vermont is the Light Club Lamp Shop. It's like a repository for all fucking weirdos in this place, and this place would be an empty shell of itself if it weren't for that. I saw this band, Arc Iris. I loved them, and I was like, we should make some music together sometime. And we formed a band called Bwahaha. We've played 4 times. We wrote 8 songs, and it's so fun, and it's kind of on the thing. Okay, Emily, you're the best. Wherever you are, we got a party. I started embroidering stuff. I embroidered stuff. Like, I embroidered this, and I embroidered this, and I started embroidering things because I was like, I really like embroidery. I should just try it. So I tried it. That's on a shirt, and that's going to come up later because this seems kind of dumb, but it's going to lead into further things that I did later in my life. That's on a T-shirt, and I just like embroidery. Okay. This is an animated TV series I started, which is really weird because my friend Dave Zamboni had this amazing story about Bob Dylan, where at the end, Bob Dylan tells him to suck a dick, which is hilarious. So it's a form. I was like, we should record this. So we recorded it, and then I called Mark Duplass from the Safety Not Guaranteed, and I was like, look, what should we do? He's like, anyway, we made a... Okay, this is the chicken, because I didn't know how it was going to go, and I was like, well, we need a chicken in the middle. It's just so good. I just can't stop. Okay, so I was standing in Venice, California. This woman came up to me. She's like, hey, are you Ryan from Guster? And I was like, yeah. She goes, I'm Kesha. I was like, holy shit. She's like, I love your band. I was like, I love you. We should do this. So we became friends. And one time we went in and we tried to write a song together. And it was terrible. And it was kind of a lesson. Like, not everything you do is going to be great. And it kind of hurts my feelings to this day because it would have been great if it went great, but didn't. So goes to, but that is Stevie Nicks. And we did do some stuff together, and look how happy I am. Look at this. Look how happy I am. You'll never see a happier picture. We did a song for Colin Trevorrow's movie, and she sang on it, and she's the greatest person ever. And if anybody tells you not to meet your heroes, they're totally wrong if your hero is Stevie Nicks, because she's the most wonderful person on the entire planet, and we've hung out so many times. Okay, almost done. This is Zeno Mountain Farm, which is a beautiful place in Lincoln, Vermont, which I just found out about like a few years ago. I guess technically now they're for marginalized communities, all kinds of beautiful, and it's an amazing place. And I help organize a 24-hour dance-a-thon with my friends from the music community here. And I just kind of wanted to put a little plug in there because they're awesome. This is weird. That's my bandmate here. We did an improv comedy show that was super scary and strange in New York at UCB. And that's a guy who was a fan who was like, hey, we should do some comedy. I was like, I have to say yes to everything. Yes, we should do some comedy. And it was the weirdest, coolest thing. We broke all the improv rules, but it ended up being really beautiful. And when I was scared. Okay, that's my friend Zoe, and I asked to be in her movie Band-Aid, and I started acting. And if you ever see the movie, I'm just staring at the camera the whole time. I'm the worst actor. But then my friend Colin Thompson, who's also from Vermont, was like, hey, you should be in my movie. So I acted in that movie. And it was also scary, and I was also terrible. But it was really fun just to kind of say yes and be like, oh, I'm going to be an actor now. That's DJ Polly J. I'm a DJ also, but I don't have any pictures of me DJing. So that was like, oh, I Googled DJ. That guy came up, and I thought it was hilarious. So I've DJ'd like one time. I DJ'd a marketing company called Fuse's Christmas party, and it was so scary. I've done so much, like I headlined Radio City Music Hall, and I was so scared to play LCD sound system at a marketing party. Those are my children, because I felt like I made something. I made 2 of them with my wife. And it's cool because part of what I'm trying to tell my kids the whole time is like a lot of this stuff, and I sum it up at the end in like 2 more slides, but is like a lot of this creative stuff, and they're already kind of weird, and I'm really proud of like how weird they're going. Like, keep getting weirder, it's gonna be cool. And then this is the coolest. Generator Chris is here, and there's a place called Generator Space, and they asked me to be an artist in residence, and I just was like, I bought this table at Andrew, and then I just made this thing, and I love embroidery, so I started cut out a copper thing, and I love making tables, and I made a table all day, and look, my hand's all red from it's all dyed, and Generator's an awesome place, and I also wanted to plug them, but I'm really gonna make tables from now on, and this is what I the through line of all the things. I was like, tell the truth, and like be really vulnerable and open, and don't condescend, and ask questions, and stay scared, and say yes. And that's kind of the through line of like my whole journey as an artist, and like kind of was like the slide 18 with my kids, where I'm like, do all these things, and shit is probably going to be okay in your life. Thank you very much.
I don't even know what to say or how to follow that. That was incredible. You guys having fun? Yeah. Okay. Our next presenter, Shakuntala Rao, is talking about social media and the global information ecosphere.
All the laughing and joy stops here. It's next 6 minutes of gloom and doom. To begin with, I'm a professor. In media studies, I have been researching and writing about the influence and impact of social media on people's lives. How quiet everybody gets immediately. My work has been focused to find out how this new media technology has changed the way societies organize and communicate with each other, both positively and negatively. But social media, we have to accept the fact, is the dominant way people globally now communicate. And it has surpassed the old media of television and radio in 2018. People in large media-rich countries like China, India, Brazil, and United States are now first turning to social media platforms to receive information, and we call it the first contact. The social media information I study is highly interpersonal and emotive, since the information shared is usually by one of us, another individual. And because it's interpersonal, it tends to be overly subjective, biased, and limited in its informational scope and richness. And I think we know that just from our day-to-day conversation. There's one area in which social media has excelled, which is marketing, and has been successful for advertisers. And the amount of information, you already know this, consumers are willing to share on their social media space has led to unbelievable amount of profits, not only for advertisers, but consumers. Social media has also become a site of collective action. The Tahrir Square, which I sort of put the slide up here, revolution of 2011 is a very good example. In Egypt, it would not have taken place if it wasn't for Facebook, where one single post brought about 500,000 people on the streets and eventually led to the toppling of Hosni Mubarak's regime. Another example that was mentioned before is the uniquely social media-driven collective action, which is called hashtag activism, such as Black Lives Matter, Me Too, and Muslim Women's Day, which has allowed for marginalized voices to be heard and change cultural discourse in a global way, not just sort of in a local, within our confines. And one of the examples, of course, the successful examples that we have studied anywhere in the world was the Women's March, which took place in January 21, 2017. It was a very good example to talk about here because almost everybody in the old media had no idea and failed to report about this event till the day before. Nobody had any clue, and many people in the old media were surprised about how quickly the message has spread. One of the successes of social media's power has been the use of memes. I don't know how many of you people follow your children's Snapchat or any of their social media. That memes is one of the primary form of communication, information consumption among our youngest consumers between the ages of 16 to 25. My research has been focused on the problematics of social media proliferation, the use of data, and breaches to individual privacy. Platform companies have made very few attempts to keep the information of their users private. The data is not only being used for marketing purposes, but also governments to target their individual citizens. Since they're US-based, these platform companies have been resistant to any kind of regulations, consistently arguing for First Amendment. Globally, however, we have seen European Union and countries like Chile, which are just starting to regulate platforms for privacy protection, safeguard against fake news, and to advocate primarily for consumer rights. Positive collective actions such as Me Too and Black Lives Matter have been followed by negative collective action. And this is something I've been studying, especially what we have seen, the misinformation social media as in India, where public lynchings, what we have seen are public lynchings of minorities. Some of these lynchings have been broadcast on Facebook Live and have been used to generate selfies. Research finds that social media has been inundated with what we call the fake news generators. Fake news tend to get more likes, retweets, and shares than real news. Fake news generators are becoming lucrative business. This one is based in Brazil. And these companies use fake news generators to sort of spread information, especially among political parties. The amount of misinformation of these fake news generators has led, of course, to human rights crises, such as the one we have seen in Myanmar. The misinformation led to the exodus of Rohingyas, killing of 43,000 of them, and exodus of 500,000 to Bangladesh. Some countries are starting to ban social media outright, as in the latest ban in Sri Lanka, where all social media sites, including YouTube, were banned for almost 3 weeks following the Easter Sunday terrorist attack. And we also have countries like Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, Pakistan, which have been banning social media intermittently in some regularity. My research has been focused on global media ethics, where I've studied how globalization of media creates ethical challenges. In the research that we have been studying, me and my colleagues, we argue that social media has created a paradigm shift akin to what printing press did in the 14th century and television in the 20th century, basically changed the way we organize basic information. In the books, this is kind of my plug, that I've written, the focus has been on how we can recalibrate our knowledge and communication system with this advent of new technology. We don't need to reinvent ethics, we argue, but we need to tailor it for the new media ecosphere, where users are being used as data points and primarily as marketing tools. So what do we write about? We advocate for and write for platform ethics, which is the platform companies themselves. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and WhatsApp have to develop their own ethics documents, which specifically focus on principles such as diversity, tolerance, free speech, and empathy. And if you just recently saw in the last few weeks, Facebook just announced their first ethical principle on hate speech, and it's a very interesting read if you have some time. Alternately, we also advocate for, and we're open for anybody in the local schools to come and talk to students, for user ethics, which is for consumers to learn how to use platforms in a way to minimize harms. And this include learning to post, learning to reply to posts, and learning to share and promote. As these statistics on Pew Research shows, we have started to turn off our televisions in large numbers and turn to social media. And it's important for us to sort of not only see these changes, but also study how these changes of this new technology is impacting our day-to-day lives. Social media is no longer an ancillary form of communication. It's central to the way we're consuming and interpreting reality. So in our research I have conducted until now, I conclude that it's media literacy, platform ethics, and some laws. Can there be a future for information sharing which could be useful and productive rather than negative and chaotic? Thank you.
I'm sorry to tell you we're at our last presenter. I know. It's been a fun evening, though, right? So our last presenter tonight is Ali Jiang, who is going to speak on where did my passion for community building come from. So please welcome Ali.
Thank you all for having me. Thank you for being here. So I think we can start. I was not as ready as everyone, but these are pictures of me. And here you can see my father, my aunts, and my cousins. So my father was very educated and was an engineer from Russia. He was not from Russia, but he studied in Russia. So we had it all while I was growing up. So like this guy, 20 minutes, 20 seconds. And I heard something here that really struck me. A letter for tomorrow. Basically nature, our environment. I didn't learn this in Africa, but it's Vermont that gave me this opportunity to grow and also to teach the next generation how we should take care of it. In 2000, I met this beautiful woman who was a Peace Corps volunteer, who is now my wife, and gave me 2 beautiful children. And no one believed in me, basically. We had it all, but in one point we lost it all, and I was trying to survive, I can say. At the university, worked very hard for myself. But in 2008, I came here, in this beautiful city, Burlington, and had the opportunity to work with children. And here I am with the principal at Flynn, where I was doing cultural competency trainings as well as to share the culture of Africa. So my passion, it's all about children. Anything that I do, it's not for me, not for you, but it is about the tomorrow. I'm a drummer. Any skill that I have, I share it with kids. We need to teach them what's right. We need to make sure that their future is secure and their future is healthy. As a musician, that's the only passion that I have to take care of myself. Many people ask me, what do you do? You're always helping people, you're always doing this, but what do you do? I write songs, I play drums, and I play in one band that's called Bad Accent, and I created Africa Jamono, which is a drumming, Bad Accent, funny. The other passion that I have is to serve. Here it's a picture where I was serving at the Spectrum. They were doing a dinner, your ball, serving soup right here. That's exactly how I was raised and how I need to just give back. Right? The community matter, and I cannot be successful when other people are not successful. What I do for work is I am the parent university manager, and also I see myself now as going outside of this Vermont to sell the city. Institute of Education Leadership, I was there to present about the community engagement processes here in Vermont that we do. Here is me and Jeannie Collins, who used to be superintendent in the Burlington School District. She did an amazing job creating this diversity equity task force. Diversity is our gift. Diversity is our future. We need to embrace every single person, your religion, whatever you believe. We should accept each other. Here's my daughter, and this picture tells it all. A red-haired girl, a Somali girl, and another mixed girl, you know. It is what it is about. Kids and the diversity that we have, that makes us actually stronger. We are stronger when we accept our differences. Here, another picture, you know, showing about this community. It's changing in terms of culture, in terms of diversity, and we need to learn from each other. This is what I believe, this is what I do. Here, you know Ben, everyone know Ben. We know Dytham, and basically it was a very beautiful shirt, but it was powdered, and I accepted it. There is this strong asset that we have here, and I don't believe that if people are taking advantage into it, the young people that we have here in our educational institutions, UVM and Champlain College, I have the opportunity to spend time with them, to talk to them. They invite me about community building, about environment, about how to talk to elected officials. But always, before I get out, I learn something new. We need to tap into that asset that we have here, such as Burlington Telecom, that we just let go currently. June 27, 2016, maybe 17, I haven't even spent full term at the Burlington City Council. That's when I won the first time as a city councilor with over 60% of the votes. It was the best day, one of the best days of my life. And you know, since then, basically selling this city, selling this state, and also welcoming many people from around the world. Here we have people from Lebanon, you know, who are young, and we welcome them here and learn about their system of governance, learn about peace around the world, and also to exchange information as well as. Here we have the 25 most young Africans who are business owners, entrepreneurs. They were here, and we welcomed them here with many other organizations, and to just tell them that basically we all in the same boat right now. Don't think about you in Africa, we here, but we all together. And that passion, again, continue to what I do as a founder and manager of the Burlington School District Parent University, which is an educational program for parents of students in the Burlington schools. So it works in collaboration with many different community organizations, such as the Flynn. Actually, June 19, you all invited. These parents will be graduating here, not this stage, but the bigger one. So make sure you show up, and it's free, okay, to learn about their accomplishments. So this year, the theme of the program was specific to the opiate crisis. Yes. It has been killing so many people around the globe. And with Parent University, we are fortunate that parents now are interacting among each other. Parents who never knew, you know, people from Asia and Africa, but together, when I transport them sometime to classes, they don't speak English, but we all understand each other, and we all laugh, right? And I think that's the passion of what it is about. Building community and making sure everyone can survive, everyone can succeed in this great city. It has been a pleasure being with all of you, and don't forget, June 19, here at the Flynn, 3:30. Thank you so much.
A big round of applause for our presenters, please. I want to give a big shout out to Mascoma Bank for sponsoring, being our lead sponsor for this event, making it possible. Thank you, Mascoma. I also want to thank 7 Days, the Media Factory, and Solidarity of Unbridled Labor for their support as well. And if you are inspired now to present, if you have a story or an idea or a passion to share, we want to hear from you. This is completely egalitarian. If you're interested in being here on this stage, there's a spot for you. So please, if you're interested, you can talk to anybody who has a 640 shirt on. Do you have a business card on the way out? You can grab one of those and let us know. But if you're interested in presenting, we want you here. And lastly, I want to thank you. I want to thank you all for coming. This is all put together by volunteers. It's a volunteer group of people, a volunteer group of committees. If you're interested at all in participating and helping keep PechaKucha alive here in Burlington, please also, we'd love to hear from you. But for tonight, that's all. Thank you so much.